Huineng is one of the central patriarchs of Chinese Zen Buddhism. Taoism, blended together with Buddhism in China, becomes Zen. Huineng does not use the word Chan or Zen, and wouldn't use the word Zen at all. He may have used the Chinese word and term for the sitting, but not for the school. They were a school based on the Lankavatara Sutra of Mahayana Indian Buddhism, and then it turns into koan cases, gong-on court cases, koan in the Japanese. Major moments of Bodhidharma, Huineng, and the Buddha holding up a lotus are the major new sorts of texts called koan cases. The two most famous are What is the Sound of One Hand Clapping and A Tree Falls in the Forest, Does It Make a Sound, No One Around. So after Bodhidharma, there were 4 more Chinese patriarchs before the next central figure. The 6th patriarch, Huineng, who was an illiterate woodcutter, the first of the Great Tang Chinese masters. There are 4 Chinese before him. Bodhidharma, again, is Indian. Huineng is really the first major central Chinese patriarch who gets a whole lot of the attention and the text, followed by Mazu, Zhaoshu, and Linji, who's Rinzai in the Japanese. The Platform Sutra is the record of Huineng's life and sermons. In the text, Huineng is asked to lecture about his life and teaching by the local governor, and then in the song it's gonna be emperors. Huineng says that long ago when he was young, he was cutting firewood to support himself and his sick mother, when he heard a Buddhist pilgrim reciting Buddhist teachings and experienced enlightenment. And the pilgrim said it was the Diamond Sutra, which had arrived in China from India around 400 CE, from a monastery of the 5th Chan patriarch, Hongren. Huineng left home and asks Hongren permission to study Chan. Hongren asks him, "Where are you from?" Huineng says he is a peasant who wants to be a Buddha. Hongren said, "You are a southern barbarian. How can you possibly become a Buddha?" Huineng said there is no difference in Buddha nature to the north or south, and that the one mind produces wisdom wherever you are. Hongren is deeply impressed by this illiterate guy and his not only devotion, but his understanding. And he sets Huineng to work pounding rice outside. Soon after, Hongren announces that he is going to die soon and must pass the role of Grand Master and Patriarch on to someone. Well, who just showed up? He asks the monks to compose verses of poetry that display their understanding of Chan Buddhist teaching. Many of the students tell each other that the head monk Shen Xiu will compose the best verse, so they are not even going to bother. He is anxious, he frets, he sweats, and after composing a verse that he is not sure about, he tries several times to get up the nerve to present his verse to Hongren, but he stops out of fear. This guy does not deserve the title. It is very clear Shen Xiu thinks the teaching is something external to himself that he does not already possess, and this causes him great distress, showing he is not wise or worthy. You could read it in his face and behavior easily if you were paying attention to others slowly. It is good that he values the teaching above the position, but he treats the teaching as something that can be gained or lost. Meanwhile, Hongren has hired a painter to cover a hallway in a mural that depicts the Lankavatara Sutra. We are seeing them transition into these koan moments that will be preserved as the koan new sorts of texts, and they're roping in the story of them painting out the Lankavatara Sutra, and it's an image of that text, and it's a mural down a hallway. Shen Xiu decides to write his verse in the dead of the night on the wall that will be painted over anyway, and then if Hongren says it is good, he will admit it is his own. Shen Xiu takes his brush and writes, "The body is the Bodhi tree, the tree under which the Buddha was enlightened in India. The mind is a mirror on a stand." That is actually a metaphor from Chuang-Tzu, the Taoist. "Take care to wipe it continuously, never letting dust cling." Hongren sees the verse and pays the artist to go home without painting the mural, saying the Diamond Sutra says all forms are illusions, and if they leave the verse up on the wall, people can recite it, act in accord with it, and avoid falling into evil, bringing them great benefit. Huineng, pounding rice outside, hears a young monk reciting Shen Xiu's verse the next day and asks to be taken to the lecture hall to see it, as he has not been to hear a single lecture yet. He asks a military official standing by the wall to read the verse to him. Huineng chuckles and asks the official to write another verse next to it. "Okay, I can't write or read, but could you just write this down because I can talk?" The official is surprised that an illiterate wishes to compose a verse, but Huineng tells him that a person of the lowliest rank, very Tao, may have the greatest wisdom, while a person of the highest rank may completely lack it. Bodhidharma showed that with an emperor. On the wall, the officer writes for Huineng, "Enlightenment originally has no tree. A clear mirror is not a stand. Originally, there isn't a single thing. Where can dust possibly settle?" So what we have here is we have more traditional Buddhist metaphors were used by the master. They are in accord with Buddhist teaching. The words match the words. And now he doesn't say, no, those Buddhist metaphors are wrong. He's like, sure, and the opposite too. In the Taoist text of Zhuangzi, which is quoted often in the Zen tradition, it says, "I've heard that if a mirror is bright, no dust settles on it. If dust settles, it isn't really bright." Later, Huineng tore up sacred sutras to shock his students into realizing that the text is inferior to the meaning. Hong Ren realizes that Huineng is his Dharma heir, but he keeps this to himself in the text, and he secretly summons Huineng in the dead of the night and explains the Diamond Sutra to him exclusively. When Huineng hears, "Activate the mind without dwelling on anything," Huineng experiences a great burst of enlightenment and a great breakthrough. Hong Ren gives Huineng the robe and bowl of the patriarch and sends him to the south, fearing the others may hate and harm him. The way that the story is told in the song by the descendants of Huineng, Chen Xiu continued to lead the northern school, but Huineng replanted the true school, of course, secretly in the south.